Yesterday, we got the chance to talk about the newly announced RWBY game from Arc System Works and WayForward, a game I'm incredibly excited about. In that video, I mentioned I might be back later that day to talk about the PS5 event. Well, I wasn't back because there was nothing I really wanted to cover. Despite that, I was pretty excited about everything they had to show off. It's just those games aren't the type of games that I cover on the channel. I thought about doing a video for Miles Morales, but I didn't have much to say about it. It was spectacular, and if I did a video on it, I would have just been like, it's spectacular. I secured my PS5 pre-order, but that's not what we're here to talk about. Instead, I want to talk about an article released from WayForward about said RWBY game. And because I'm so excited about this game, I thought I'd read through every single word in this article and provide you with the information that I gather from it and extrapolate based on a couple statements. Articles like this usually give us some level of insight about the game, so I'm excited to jump into it and see what it says. First of all, I want to say before we get into the article, if you could take your time just to subscribe, it takes 2 seconds and it helps me out a bunch. So let's read through it, and I'll interject as we go. In conjunction with entertainment company Rooster Teeth and publisher/developer Arc System Works, we're thrilled to confirm the production of an all-new video game based on the global animated hit RWBY. Produced by Rooster Teeth in Austin, Texas, RWBY is the first Western-style anime to be distributed in Japan. Rooster Teeth will deliver an original RWBY story for the game from the show's writers, Kerry, Miles Lunar, and Eddie Rivas, and provide creative oversight, while development will be handled by WayForward, and publishing duties will be split between WayForward and Arc System Works. Okay, so this is the first point that I want to stop because there's a lot to talk about in this first paragraph. So from what I understand, Kerry, Miles, and Eddie will be responsible for the story mode in the game. Well, not the story mode, but like the story writing. But in addition, they'll be providing creative oversight. I'm not exactly sure what creative oversight means here. It could mean a lot of different things. But in this case, I think they're probably just talking about world building things. Like, for example, if WayForward wanted to use a certain type of Grim in Atlas, but then Rooster Teeth says, no, you can't use that Grim over there because we've set it up in our world that type of Grim has only been seen in Vacuo, for example. That's probably the creative oversight that they're talking about. We know from the official announcement at the RTX panel that the game will be taking place sometime around Volume 7, which is a pretty dark point in RWBY's history. Knowing that the RWBY team is going to be writing and handling this story, I'm honestly a tiny bit worried about how the team over at WayForward will be handling the darker tone of this series. They are fantastic developers, but the vast majority of their games are very bubbly, and they certainly have a comedic tone to it. So I'm expecting there to be a fairly dramatic departure from a traditional WayForward game. Anyway, continuing with the article, the RWBY video game, final title to be announced, is tentatively scheduled to arrive on multiple platforms in 2021. I'm guessing that's their safe way of saying that the game is going to be available on all platforms. Most WayForward titles have been released on every single platform, so I don't know why this game would be an exception to that rule. I'm just expecting the RWBY game to be released on Nintendo Switch, Xbox Series X, PlayStation 5, PS4, Xbox One, and PC. We shall see, but that would be my guess. It's a massive honor to be trusted with a beloved brand like RWBY, said WayForward tyrannical overlord Voldy Way. It's an incredible title. Collaborating with innovators at Rooster Teeth has been a blast, and we think the characters, personalities, and style of RWBY are a great match for WayForward's design sensibilities. As I kind of alluded to before, I'm not sure I can necessarily agree with that statement, but Voldy Way would obviously have a much better idea of what his team is capable of doing, so of course I'm going to trust their judgment here and trust the judgment of everybody involved with the project as I look forward to see what else they have to show us in the future. But I do go into it with like a tiny bit of suspicion just because the tone of WayForward is very, very, again, for lack of a better word, I'll go with bubbly, and RWBY isn't that. It can be that in some cases, but it's not always like that. And I wonder how WayForward's going to handle those kind of darker beats that we expect from the RWBY franchise sometimes. We hope that fans are looking forward to seeing their favorite huntresses in action as much as we're looking forward to bringing them the game. I like this statement for a couple different reasons. It illustrates the importance of character representation. RWBY as a franchise lives on the incredible character designs that they have available to them. WayForward, while they make fantastic games, they don't have a history of deep rosters. River City Girls has 4 playable characters, which could cover our main 4 huntresses, the Team RWBY. But there is a huge line of characters in the RWBY franchise that I'm sure a lot of us want to play. Please, for the love of all things in the world, let me play as Velvet. But this statement alone does not imply or suggest or even remotely indicate that there's going to be more playable characters past that main Team RWBY. But I'm still happy with this statement because it shows that WayForward understands the importance of having quote-unquote our favorite huntresses. I think pointing this out is relatively pointless, but I'll do it anyway. The statement does disclude huntsmen. It does just say huntresses. So if you want want to read super hard into that, I wouldn't, but if you want to read super hard into that, that could, like, in theory, deconfirm characters like Crow, Jorn, or literally any male character could be deconfirmed in that statement. But I think that's just kind of like a broad statement. It's kind of annoying to have to say huntsmen and huntresses every time you say huntsman or huntress. Continuing with the article, to this day and date, I still cannot forget the awe when I first saw Monty's RWBY, added Mori Toshimichi, chief producer at Arc System Works. You probably know Mori if you're familiar with this channel. Fair warning for this next paragraph, it's very poorly translated, but I'm still going to just read it word for word, just for clarity. At the same time, I cannot thank enough to all of Rooster Teeth for giving us a chance to have RWBY participate in BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle. We're also in deep gratitude to WayForward for bringing us River City Girls. And now we're all in on this new RWBY project, and I'm tremendously thrilled to the coming of this new masterpiece. Again, sorry for that paragraph, it was pretty poorly translated, but it'll have to do. It's interesting that Mori's so directly involved, but other than that, I don't have anything to add to that paragraph. Initially revealed during Rooster Teeth's virtual event RTX at Home, the upcoming game will let players take control of Team RWBY, Ruby Rose, Weiss, Blake Belladonna, and Yang Xiaolong, and use their trademark weapons and abilities to deliver stylish action that has made RWBY a sensation with audiences worldwide. Okay, there's quite a bit to unpack there, so let's go. Firstly, this statement doesn't close off the possibility of additional characters, and I want to make that clear, but it also doesn't tease anywhere I would expect them to. Instead, they explicitly say that you'll be taking control of Team RWBY. There are no hints or suggestions for anybody like Team Juniper or the Aesops or Team Coffee, but now we know that the game will be taking place during Volume 7 or around Volume 7 with a focus on Team RWBY. So my dreams of playing Team Coffee are probably crushed because they're on the other side of the world right now. At least until potential DLC. Maybe I get to play Team Coffee as DLC, who knows? The statement also mentions the trademark weapons, abilities, and stylish action that the series is known for, which is incredibly important. River City Girls is fantastic, but if I were to make a similar game set in the world of RWBY, the very first thing that I would choose to address is mobility options and stylization, which WayForward seems to be addressing quite quickly in this article. So I'm glad that they realize that that is like one of the things that would need to be heavily adjusted for River City Girls compared to RWBY. Additional information about gameplay, features, distribution, and pricing will be revealed at a later date. For more details about WayForward's lineup of games, please visit wayforward.com. If I had to guess, this is probably going to be a slightly larger budget game than the average WayForward game, just because Arc System Works involved, and then of course Rooster Teeth is also involved, so there's a lot more money flowing around. So maybe expect a slightly higher price tag than their average game, but for the most part, I would expect this to be relatively along the same lines as your traditional WayForward game. And the last line of the article is actually a quote from the RTX stream that I managed to miss somehow, because I was watching the stream, but I missed this. As huge fans of WayForward's and Arc System Works' past games, we could not be more excited, concluded Shortgrass, that's Kerry. Bringing a new RWBY game to life in one of our favorite genres and with two of our favorite developers feels like a dream scenario to us. I'm still not exactly sure what genre of game we're talking about here. WayForward has almost exclusively made beat-em-up games and platformers, so my first guess would obviously be a beat-em-up game, which would work perfectly in the world of RWBY. Instead of beating up on random enemies that exist in that world, you'd be fighting Grimm, or maybe the occasional robot from the Atlas Army. But I'm starting to think that there's a chance that this game is going to be something else. Maybe even that dream fighting game we were talking about, especially because of how passionate Monty Ohm was about that genre. But I would say the chances for that are incredibly low. For the time being, until they officially confirm otherwise, I'm just going to assume that this game is going to be a beat-em-up game similar to their other titles, though a few people have been asking questions on social media directed toward WayForward. Questions very directly, like, hey, what genre of game is this? Is it like the standard beat-em-up stuff you normally do? And WayForward's response was pretty nothing. They said things like, we'll have more information in the future, and beyond what's in this article, we don't have any details to share yet, which, like, I understand, but I don't know why they're being so vague about the genre. Kerry, during the live stream, didn't talk about the genre. He did specifically say that it's one of his favorite genres, or one of their favorite genres, but he didn't say what genre that is. Some people have pointed out the tweet from the official RWBY account saying that it's going to be an all-new adventure, which some people are interpreting as it's like an action-adventure game. I don't think that's what they're trying to say at all. I think they're just saying like an all-new adventure because the characters are going to go on an adventure and whatever the story mode is. People have said like the interactive adventure thing in the article means that it's going to be an adventure game. I don't think that either. Interactive adventure is like a term you could use to describe literally any video game, or at least any video game with a story, I guess. So yeah, I'm a little bit lost on what exactly the genre of this game is, but apart from that, I'm very much looking forward to it. If you followed the channel for a while, you know that I'm a huge RWBY fan. So of course, whenever there's new information about this game, I will be talking about it. I've gotten a couple questions about the RWBY franchise since I made my last video, people asking if you should watch it. Guys, if you're thinking about watching it, just watch it, you know? Just give it a go. It's right there on YouTube. You got nothing to lose. Just try it out. Fair warning, the first couple seasons are kind of rough for animation. When you get into fights, it's like good. But like visually, the series is definitely kind of jarring for the first couple seasons, but it gets progressively better. So I definitely say it's worth watching, especially because like it's free. It's right there on YouTube. Just go try it out. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. My name is Bilbzy, and I'll be sure to catch you in the next one.